Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are listening, and welcome to Ticket to Life. I am Henrie, and thank you so much for allowing me into your life for the next 28 or longer, shorter minutes. 28 minutes can change a life like in a snap. Things can happen, things we don't even expect. But I hope that so many of you have had good blessings that have come your way since we last met. And if you think that things just haven't gone well for you, do I have a podcast for you? Today I'm going to be talking about the life of Job. Um, if some of you may not know who Job is, but we'll talk about him in just a little bit. But before we dive into that, and no, don't worry, I'm not trying to convert anyone. It's just interesting to see the many things in our life that we might think are tragic, but you may see things in a different light at the end of this Ticket to Life podcast and be thankful for all the hiccups that may happen in your life. My husband and I have been listening to the Bible in a year, which is so freaking interesting. And yet sometimes, boring. And I'm just being honest. And for all the theologians, do not be upset with me. I'm just being honest. And honesty is what I do. But it's very interesting. So it's been a while. Because we're about to start in the New Testament, but it's been a while that we had talked about Job. But I guess Job's just kind of been on my mind. And watching West Side Church last Sunday, it was mentioned about Job. And the more I thought about it, I thought, that's a good podcast. That's something to talk about. His story and our stories. So anyway, before we start, I just have to tell you something that happened in my life, and don't turn that dial. Now, does anyone still have a dial? I don't think so. Maybe, probably not. Well, anyway, so in August, when I say we, it was my family. The whole family, we rented a beach house in Galveston, Texas, on the beach, and it was great. 6 adults, 3 precious grandkids. We had a good time, although remember when you do travel with kids and kids are involved in vacations, it revolves around the kids, their naps, when they eat, when they just need some quiet time and so on. I just wanted to share this because as many of you know, family is everything to me, and it should be to you too, but some people don't like their families, and I get that too. I do get that. And if someone offered me another life, I would have to decline. I have been so blessed, and I thank God because sometimes I wonder what do I do? What did I do to be blessed with this family? And I tell my husband, we must have done something right, but we're not sure what we did, other than trying to raise them to be good people, showing them the faith of being a Christian. But I have truly, truly been blessed. But for our family, law enforcement was our bread and butter. And it was really tough sometimes financially and mentally with my husband on for 34 years. It was, he was out there. And then it really got crazy when he went undercover. That was just a totally different life. Not just for him, but for the family. You just couldn't just pick up and go certain places because he couldn't be recognized. He didn't want them to know, people to know he had a family anyway. So now my son is out there and he's an officer. And do I worry about him? Again, if you have heard this podcast, you know that I don't worry because unfortunately worry isn't good. And things that do happen are literally out of my control. Or our control, your control. So sadness has hit the Dallas Police Department again. Recently, at the end of August, a Dallas officer was killed. Officer Burks was only doing his job. And as the chief of Dallas Police Department says, he was executed and not ambushed. Why? This young man was a teacher for many years and decided he felt like the need to do something else. This was all on his social media. So he prayed to God about, what do you want me to do? And God led him to be a police officer. And it does take a special person to be an officer of the law. It just does. And of course, I know a lot of people don't like police officers, and there are always bad apples in every types of occupation. But why did this have to happen to him? I prayed for his family and his mom because that's what I can do. I don't know her. And why? Because when it comes to family, that's what you do. You pray. Now, to say this doesn't just happen to anyone and everyone, this just happens to police officer. No, this happens to innocent people. People are killed daily. And it does, we don't hear about it. We don't hear about it. You may hear about certain shootings or something. Another school shooting just happened here in Texas. Another one by a 14-year-old. But to lose a loved one like this, that I can't even imagine the heartache for the families. So for all those parents and families and friends who have lost someone in this way, or any other makes no sense of a way, for no reason, I don't know why this happens. That's when people start to question, well, where's God? God has given us our brains. He's given us our minds, and we are to use them for kindness and goodness. But sometimes Satan overrules. So I send prayers your way to all those who may be saddened by a loss of someone. But also, I hope that you are thankful for memories you had, that you have with the one you have lost. And I will pray for goodness to come with your everyday blessings. Just know that it's never too late for those of you who have not made memories. It's never too late to start making memories with families and friends, and don't have regrets later in life. So now on to Job. I'm sure that many of you have never even heard of the name Job, and yet many of you have, and I know that it looks like his pronunciation is Job, but it's pronounced Job, Jobe. Now, the meaning of the name Job from Hebrew origins, and the meaning is he who weeps. And boy, did he have some things to weep about. Now, knowing all of this, if I had been Job, I would have been weeping 24/7. Just a quick summary of the story of Job and where I'm going with all of this. So Job, back in Bible times, is a wealthy guy who has everything and anything he could have wanted. Family, land, wealth, and the most important thing that he had was faith and devotion and honoring God. Well, along comes Satan and says there is no way Job would give up all this or anything for you, God. And God says, oh no, he loves me. And his faith and devotion is very strong in this one. Okay, that's from Star Wars, kind of. So Satan says, let me test his faith. And God, not being a gambling kind of God, although he had he been, he would have won the bet. I know I'm going to need to pray after I publish this because people are going to say, oh, can you believe she's saying this about God? I really believe that God has a sense of humor. Anyway, although God did know how strong his faith was, he's like, okay, Satan, I know Job loves me. And he allowed Satan to test Job. So first, Job lost his wealth, land, lost his family. All of them died. And he suffered a breakout from head to toe of boils. How would you have handled that? Many people thought he was crazy, and still having faith and devotion and honoring God. And according to the Bible, Job said, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I shall return. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." So again, as usual, Satan was wrong. Big surprise. No, not really. He's always wrong. So what happens to Job after this? He received twice his wealth, and what he had had before, twice, plus a new family, and it was 7 sons and 3 daughters, and he received his health back. Now, as far as first family, that was sad. It was very sadly they were gone. And I'm hoping they were right with the Lord and had an eternal life and are in heaven and understood the devotion and faith that their dad had. Now, if you're wondering about his first wife, because I had to look this up, because she's not really mentioned too much. The only thing that I could find is I don't think she died, but it mentioned that she did tell Job to curse God during all this tragedy, during all this. But he didn't. He knew there was a reason, and maybe it was to show others, look, my faith is strong. And yet God blessed him again. Hardworking man. But what I did find out about his wife was, again, she said to curse God. Now, I don't think she was thinking very clearly. I hope she was just, I understand she lost her whole family. But did she ask for forgiveness or not? Or did he marry a more faithful woman to start his new family? Now, you can make up your own ending because I don't know enough about that. But not to be nasty, I am pretty sure it wasn't a pleasant ending unless she did ask for forgiveness. So here, listeners, is my disclaimer. I'm not a pastor. I'm not a woman wearing a collar. I'm not a minister. I'm not a chaplain. I'm not a nun. Just me and how I see fit to tell the story. Now, I do not mean to offend anyone by telling the story with some humor. So please take a deep breath. And if you would or feel the need to pray for me, please do so. That's fine. I will appreciate the prayer. I could always use prayer. Now I have to come down. No, what I came up with is when something happens to me now, but again, because we're reading the story and the more I think about Job, it's like, oh, geez, my life is grand. My husband and I heard someone tell a story about going through something. And I know that at that time, when you do go through something this bad, it may seem like the whole world is looking so bad. So here's a little tidbit. So my husband's truck went on the fritz, and yes, it's a truck, not a human life. And as you know, how frustrating it is when something like this happens. You know, it's your vehicle, you depend on it. But I looked at him and said, well, at least it's not a Job thing. He looked at me kind of like, what are you talking about? And I said, look what Job went through. This is a truck that needs a new battery. It's not so bad. He laughed and he said, I was right. I just love it when he says that. Seriously. Oh, you're right. Anyway, so a little bit more about things that just happen to people. Because things have happened to me this year. This has been a crazy year for us. But we have survived. Now, I'm going to share some stuff with you about my life this year. And you can yawn, you can stop listening, or you can bear with me. So this year started off weird. We were going on a cruise in January, and we got to the port to find out our suite had water from a storm they had run into the night before. So nixed the cruise until January 2025. Keep your fingers crossed. Royal Caribbean, don't let me down. Then that was January. So in February, I had some health issues. Nothing major. Well, we're adults here. I had some UTIs, but I survived that. In March, I broke out with this rash. I couldn't figure out what it was. It was so stinking painful. I went to the doctor, went to the allergist, and I had had a cold 2 weeks prior, or a week prior to that. And I had heard that if you have a cold, that virus can live in you and cause rash. Well, I mentioned it to the allergist. She goes, that's what it is. So this rash was so painful. Nothing compared to Job's boils. But it was so painful. Honestly, it was more painful than labor. Seriously, than having my children. And yes, I had an epidural, but I did have labor pains. It was awful. It was awful. So that happened in March. And then also in March, someone very close to me, my family, had a stroke. In April, my friend Dee Dee, the most kindest person and loving person in the universe, known her for over 15 years, passed away. In May, we had to send our sweet pup, Arthur, over the Rainbow Bridge, which is very heartbreaking because pets have always been a part of our life. And he was just one of the sweetest pups. And in June, now this is goofy, what I'm about to share with you. I had my first nosebleed, but I know that sounds dumb, but my husband said he had never seen a nosebleed like that before. I do have a big nose, so perhaps that is what the deal was. It was awful. It was awful. I mean, I had like just so much blood. You would have thought someone beat me on the face. I was just coming. But anyway, that's over and done with. But anyway, I know that's goofy. So also in June, at the end of June, found out a friend of mine had cancer. And she's doing much better by the grace of God. And July was good. In August, we did have some sadness, but I can't share that with you in our family. So let's see. Now, it wasn't as the world was ending, but I can't and I won't lose my faith. When life just happens, and it sucks, but it does, and you have to keep the faith, because if you don't find the blessings in your everyday life, I know that if I didn't find blessings in my everyday life, I would be doomed. And yes, I write just about everything. I've always said you should journal. It's just therapeutic. And I write, and when it happens, or I write the good too. Now, not just misfortunes of life. And I know that I can tell you that there have been more happy things other than what life throws at you. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, yeah. But it is true. I am blessed each and every day. And I know people think I'm crazy when I say just to get out of bed. Just to end the day, to say good night and I love my husband and kiss him good night. I am so thankful for what God gives me daily, and I do sometimes take it for granted. I have the most beautiful grandchildren. I'm getting all emotional. They are such a joy. Even though 2 are in Kansas, they are just the best. I have great kids. And those are my blessings. So, sorry, didn't mean to go off that way. But anyway, my suggestion, if you're having problems in relationships, we are all going through things. We all do. And I'm sure some of you are going through health problems, marital problems, any type of relationship problems, work, family, school, church, or just feeling lost. My suggestion, again, is to find God. Get that faith. And if you believe in another religion other than Christianity, such as Buddhism, Judaism, and whatever, then believe in the goodness of that faith, and it will see you through. I can honestly tell you that being a Christian has definitely helped me to be a better person. Yes, I may curve off sometimes, but I always wake up and realize that I need to be a better person. We all know that narrow road is sometimes hard to follow, but remember that wider road usually leads to no good. I am sure you weren't expecting to hear me preach today, and neither was I. Sometimes thoughts just go off this way and that. So I will step down from the pulpit now. Life is crazy, and it is daily something can happen, and sadness is around us, but we have to lift ourselves up. The tragedies of the loss of family, friends, we're not expecting it. It's sad. I read something, I think it was Billy Graham, and he said, we are born to die, which totally makes sense because we all are born and we all will die. But what we do between that space of birth and death is up to us. To be kind, to be good, to be faithful, to be honest, and always to find good in people. So, again, I'll get off the pulpit now and totally change the subject here. Who is ready for football? If you have listened to me for the past 3 years, I love football. We love football in my family. I have my fantasy team, and it's okay, but I know that you will be wanting to hear all about my team and what's going on. So the past few years, the name of my football team, my fantasy football team, is Mama's Boys, but I think I need to change it, and I can change it anytime I want. So if any of you have any ideas, please share it with me. Ticket to Life, at tickettolife022@gmail.com, or you can send a text message on the description of the podcast. Of course, we're big Dallas fans because we live in Dallas. America's team. I can hear people going boo, hiss when I say that, but we just love football. I do have, my quarterbacks this year are Burrow and also Love. So just wish me luck that I have a good season. Last year, my daughter and I kind of came in third place, and we decided, you know what, we're just going to tie it. Actually, she won by a few points, but we're just like, we're done. Because at the end of football season, if you don't like football and your spouse loves football, it can probably ruin a marriage, literally. Because literally, we do church, we eat, and watch football literally all day. Like all day Sunday. So definitely a day of rest and stress sometimes. But at the end, so much football, you're ready to hang it up. It's like, okay, when's the Super Bowl? And let's be done with it. But anyway, so if you are on a fantasy league and you have your fantasy football team, good luck. I hope you have a good season because I plan to have a great season. I don't know about my quarterbacks, but when you do that draft, it's kind of... it's actually stressful. For me, it was stressful. It's stressful every year because you only get 2 minutes and then it starts going really fast. And then the players you wanted to pick, all of a sudden they're gone. And then you're like, oh, where's my list? Oh, my list. Everyone's gone. So anyway, if you don't watch football, I'm sorry to be rambling, but football is so much fun to watch. It really is. It's a good thing. But another very, very important thing for September, and I hope a lot of you did not forget Grandparents' Day. We'll be watching my grandson on Grandparents' Day. But anyway, one more important thing is September 15th through October 15th is National Hispanic Heritage Month. Why the middle of the month? Because I've always questioned, why is it in the middle of the month? Everybody else starts on the first and ends at the end. I'm not sure what's going on here. But of course, I had to look that up too. And the reason they do it, it's because um, the middle of the month is because many of the Central American countries celebrate their Independence Day with these dates starting in the middle, like beginning in September 15th. And it's like Costa Rica, El Salvador. Mexico's actually September 16th. So be sure to celebrate because we know how to celebrate. Uh, my culture likes to celebrate. We love to celebrate, and we know how to celebrate. Also, a very important date is my sister's birthday this month, and happy birthday to you. I love you so much. And pretty much, I guess that's wrapping that up. If you have any suggestions for a podcast, please feel free to email me at tickettolife022@gmail.com, or you can again text message me on the description of the podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening, and I hope that I may have hit a nerve with some of you. I hope that I have been able to help some of you realize that your life is good. If you have a family, you have friends, you have a job, it may not be the best family, friends, or job, but you have those things. If you have a roof over your head, that is such an important thing for me to be thankful for. And I think that's a lot of things that people tend to forget. They may have a miserable life, but they don't see the blessings, and they're probably wondering, why is she always telling me to go find my blessings? Because we take for granted having that roof over our head or having food on the table. And I'm not saying a 3-course meal. You have peanut butter and jelly for dinner, it's a meal you're eating. I mean, because we are so thankful to be able to have food on our table. And there's so much waste also in the U.S. with food. But anyway, I just want to thank you again. And I hope very much that you enjoyed this podcast. And I hope that you can find your blessings daily. And I hope that you can find your faith. Because literally, it will guide you through life. If you have that faith, I can promise you it's not going to be a bed of roses. But you will be a happier person when something doesn't go your way. You'll figure it out why it happened. So thank you again for listening. I will see you next week. Enjoy your family, enjoy your friends, enjoy your life, and go find your blessings.